Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to Plotting and Scheming, the Grand Arena focused podcast, centered around the top 100 of Kyber 1 for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I am here with my regular co-hosts Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal. Gentlemen, it was an excellent week. 3-0 against legitimate opponents throughout. We'll talk about it in detail, but it was a good one. Dagger, can't wait to hear how it went for you.
I am in Kyber 3.
Wow, really? You're actually back in Kyber. Now, are you in Kyber, hold on, for the upcoming 5 vs. 5 season? Or were you weren't in Kyber at all for this last week?
No, I said I am in Kyber.
Oh, okay.
I will be in Kyber 3 to start 5v5.
All right, well, welcome back to Kyber.
As far as my week went, it was really, really fucking cold. Like, really cold. Like, the pipes froze in the basement cold.
It is extra super bitter out here. Yes.
Yeah. That's how my week was. I would say it was neutral. It's neither good nor bad. Just, there was some annoying stuff. There was some cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good times. All right. TJ, how about you? How'd your week go?
2-1.
Okay.
Wasn't too bad. Called everything correctly this time, finally. Into week 3, so I'll take it. Could have been a 3-0, but data crowns will get you. So you need some luck, and sometimes you need it on a good game, and that's where it ended up getting me for round 1. So yeah, I was generally pleased, man. 2-1 finally. I'll end the week under, or end the season under, but it's all right. So I get to come back stronger for next season.
Yeah, fair enough. I should have mentioned I was 6-3 overall for the season. So, usually going for like 7-2. So acceptable, but not great.
You guys will be shocked to know that I went 9-0.
I like you less, yeah. I like you less in the same amount as usual. So, diminishing returns being what they are,
look,
it's not really.
Your 6-3 still made more crystals than my 9-0.
Fair, very fair, very fair. All right, so Sasha Aisha, how about you? How'd your week go?
It was 2-1. In the one, I tried some stuff. I'll share some fun stuff sort of late in the season. I was disappointed not to get more real matches, but yeah, overall it was fun. And I leaned a little bit into trying some creative stuff and then seeing some creative stuff. So that was that was fun.
All right. And last but not least, Fatal. How'd the week go? You had high aspirations for this week, I know.
Yeah, I said I was planning to 9-0 this season, and then just immediately through the first match, sleeping through it with New Year's and all that.
Bueno.
But then the rest went 8-0. Went pretty good. It's definitely one of my stronger seasons of recent memory, just in terms of defense potential. I think only 2 people cleared me.
Wow, nice. Yeah. Where does that place you rank-wise at the end of this run?
I have no, let me...
All right.
I'm pulling it up. Somewhere between like 50 and 150. That's
okay. Yeah, not too far off. That's what I was, hoping for. So, fair. All right.
I don't know.
Please.
I was having an identity crisis 2 days ago of like, should I throw this round or not? Because I keep on hearing like, oh, their team is not that bad anymore. And then I looked at the leaderboard, and then it was like still like half a top 50, was it? And then I thought that it was that you didn't see Rhodium accounts if you were like in the middle of a season or like at post lock. But apparently that's just not true. So like apparently it's actually not as bad as it looked. So I guess things are kind of normal-ish and I'm kind of climbing-ish. We'll see. I don't know.
I'll tell you this much, because I know we discussed this before, and I remember you asking this more or less that same way before. Anecdotally, my own experience only, I am having less erodiums this last season towards the end of the season prior. Like, I feel... I think I had 2 solid weeks of legitimate contenders, which doesn't sound like a high bar to clear, but considering most of the last year, it stood out. So, could go any which way, but...
I'm not I was just like, I kept on hearing, he's like, hey, it's actually getting better. And then, yeah, like, I looked at Tom Ford's history, and you only had 3 out of 6 real ones, and I looked at yours, and you only had, like, or 4 out of 6 were real ones. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I enjoy GAC, which is why I'm trying to avoid this shit, but, like, it sucks that we have to have this conversation.
It would be nice if they do what I presume they're going to do, but yeah. Neither neither here nor there. All right, guys, we have an agenda to get into. First up, as always, the meta-analysis. First on the agenda, Great Mothers. Specifically, Darth Revan versus Great Mothers. I found this week that for the opponents that really liked this as their counter, high crit damage, set 18, was a safe ticket. I also threw DTP in there because I had a few opponents that had mastered the art of Finn versus Enoch for 57 banners. So I wasn't going to set that. I did set, something like DTMG, Night Trooper, and Scout instead. I thought, that was fun. But anyway, I was with DTP there, bulking them up, set 18, bulking them further. I want to say about 118% crit damage on Micron, but looking through the GAC history on Insight, I was seeing basically anything 100% plus set 18 was good. I also think that you could probably pull this off with set 19 as well. There's not as much crit damage, but there is offense. There is armor penetration. I don't have enough information from my opponents fighting my team to understand where the kill shot's coming from, but my expectation would still be like DTP or Spirit, depending on which one I was running. What do you guys got to say about this matchup?
My Great Brothers have been one shot once this entire season, and my opponent was showing Darth Revan on defense, so that's probably why they didn't lose.
Fair.
I think you called it out exactly what it is. My round one was a guy who invested in the Datacrons. Didn't change it up, but I needed to take a risk, and it ended up having to be the Darth Revan, and I got punished for it. And it was exactly what you said. The bulk was there. There was high stats on the setup. I think Fatal. I think they listened to you, so damn you, Fatal, for calling him out because the suck didn't work. Things of that nature came into play, but it definitely felt the burden of me having to try it and it going exactly as you would expect with somebody with good modding with the setup and the Datacron to boot.
I ended up, in facing some really well modded and like solid Datacron setups to prevent a DR squad. I ended up using Seer Malicos Cal, and it was like staggeringly easy. I think probably about 30, 40 seconds in, Malicos had melted the opposing team. So that surprised me how easy it was. And then, the other counter, I know it was used against me. It was something that was like remarkably cheap. It was LV Thrawn and Royal Guard. So, having Maul purposed elsewhere, including like one thing that Maul can be really devastating with was a Seer Maul SK, for example, like to be able to have Maul elsewhere and still have LV, not necessarily breeze through, but after enough ults, be able to cut through the Night Sisters. That seemed to work. So in my matches, DR ended up not really coming into play on either side.
Now that we've been mentioning it here, I know at least one round this season I did place it with a 25% turn meter on defense with the Great Mothers, and I did have an opponent specifically write to me to say that didn't stop them with DR. So, yeah, not only is the set 18 more challenging just by what we're talking about from our own experience, but, set 19, turn meter doesn't seem to be the recipe. So maybe set 19, not turn meter. Probably, I remember, Sasha, you made the case last week that it takes 10 turns of the stacking offense to be worth the buffs on 3 just for the offense up. Maybe the better way to go. Any thoughts there?
I feel like Terminator might be
I-
fine, but it's not going to solo carry you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say I did stop somebody with the DTP setup with the turn meter. It wasn't great stats, had DTP in there, etc. Stopped the Malgus. So that could have been user error on that standpoint. It wasn't the Darth Revan setup, but I think round 2, I was doing that thought, and it did catch somebody off guard. Ended up being a 2-shot, but still, for the point of where we're at with the meta, that was interesting to note. So I'd be interested to see what that's going to do, because I know when you weren't doing Darth Revan, you were doing Malgus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Appreciate that, guys. I think that's all I had on this one. Any other comments from you guys on this? Great Mother's Darth Revan thing? All right. Next item. C versus Ahsoka. Galactic Legend, obviously. So we're going to recap on his limits versus Ahsoka, without Bane. Now, Fatal, I know you'll be doing the heavy lifting on this discussion because I think you put heavy defense modding into at least your Scion and your Set so that you could pull off basically any Ahsoka that didn't also have Exile Ezra, if I'm correct. I don't know if you aspired to the highest version of the team, but I think you were taking on ones that had like Padawan Sabine and Fulcrum with the Fulcrum Cron, stuff like that. What can you tell us?
No, it had Ezra as well. The entire point of the modding was because of Ezra.
To take on the highest form, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the principle is because Ahsoka pre-taunts and you don't have taunt ignore, that you have to choose a link 1. And so Ezra expresses the majority of his damage as percent health damage, so the gambit was just tilt all of my investment towards defense and percent protection to kind of limit his reach, or at least buy enough time that he can't hack through the two sides and then like just shuts down Sabine or whoever. And then yeah, it just resolves out from there. I did lose one this week, but it was solely just a timeout on a lone Ahsoka because I took Link off of her before I got her production down. Yeah, it was just a one-time mistake. Just don't do that in the future. You like the only dynamic happening in that matchup that I was like wasn't sure if I should rush the Link off or not is because the true damage tax that you take whenever you gain Terminator, and then Eternal mostly only just gains Terminator from how many locked buffs the Ahsoka squad makes between her ults and Mirais and all the Ezra Princedom stuff as well. That like it's weird because like it never like I never really fell below like 80% health, but it was just like the unknown variable of like, should I risk it and see like if it could get worse? It seemed like I was pretty much stable at like 90% health the whole time. I had already done fights in the past where I did wait to get her protection up before linking and won that just fine, so I'm not really worried about it. It seems like a fine matchup. Again, if you don't want to do like the high investment tanks like I did, Enoch should be extremely straightforward.
I can see that one.
I was gonna say,
Malgus.
having put some effort into play testing it, come next 3v3, we won't have set 18. So knowing that, what would you say the minimum setup is? Let Enoch. You're saying basically Enoch, and then I guess any Sith tank, preferably Set. I would assume.
Yeah, if you wanted to be like
Or is it
absolutely
GBA?
damn sure. No, I don't know. GBA, I barely use that unit.
Okay.
Like if you're doing Darth Revan against Grey Mothers and you know that your Malgus is just a free agent, Malgus also tackles the Ezra problem that you wouldn't even necessarily need Enoch, I think, because Malgus is percent health resistant. He's just a slab of meat that Ezra can't hack through. But Malgus would also probably be a cheat code. Otherwise, I don't know, like Enoch set would probably feel fine. I haven't tried them for what it's worth, but like someone else asked me, and I think they tried it and they said it was fine. I don't know. It really is just a point of breakdown what Ezra's threatening you with, and then shut it off by like preventing crits or preventing percent health, and whatever means that you use to get there, the end state should still feel like pretty favorable, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, we'll see what the new Datacron set that's yet to be announced will have in store when we come back to next threes. But still thinking with that in mind, is there any specialized modding that's off the beaten path that you consider an absolute requirement to pulling this off without Bane?
The 3x defense, force protection for tanks that I mentioned, I gave if your Sith Eternal can't beat through her, counterattack protection, then that would be an issue. I didn't give my Sith Eternal even like a damage set or anything. I just gave him like a crit damage triangle, and that seemed to be enough.
Okay, I'd heard about some folks, yourself included, experimenting with / vouching for it, and okay, that is unexpected.
Yeah, it's just making sure that he's able to properly close things out once he puts himself in a position to do so. I know I'm on a defense kick lately, and I'm not here to yap about that, but I actually do think there's a very interesting future for Ahsoka where, what happens when you just give her the, most pain in the ass mods possible, where, maybe her team just gets absolutely rocked, but then she can just successfully time you out. That... I'm not saying that's true here, but I'm saying it's extremely on Sith Eternal's mind to do his best to make sure that does not happen.
Yeah,
I really feel like I would say I looked specifically in this my round one. Specifically was the topic of can I split, because I really did need to, but he had, and I looked at all the data and insights, and taking away from what Fatal said, specifically his monster scion and the other pieces of what you could add in, it had such a low win rate, it wasn't worth the risk of doing just the Bane, or doing the other, because the modding my opponent had on it and the Datacron was like super high build. I couldn't take the risk, right? And if you look at the numbers that were showing it, it was not supporting to split them up on that setup with such a good cron.
Fair. All right, we got your take. Sasha, anything you have on this? Do any experimentation this way?
Yeah, I did not face one with Ezra. Every Ezra I saw was with Ray, but the variants without Ezra felt pretty comfortable with C. And I was taking C and a couple of tanks. And what wasn't clear to me was if I had, how much time I had to delay on alt, because it's, with C, this sometimes happens, for example, with that, the Bastila Watt JML one, where you can, there's never significant DPS pressure on your C, so you just wait until his mastery goes all the way up, and then you double off of a super high number. So you do his ult late, and then you have zero risk of timeout, because your last couple of minutes you're hitting like a truck with your C. And I was wondering if that was going to be the case against, it was an all R9. I think it had Padawan Sabine and Hu Yang, I believe, was one of the comps. And I didn't feel a ton of pressure out of it, so I felt like I probably could wait and was able to get a one shot on it, but I could see if it had been an Ezra Padawan Sabine, I wasn't as well set up as Fatal going into it. I don't think I had honed my mods in quite the same way. And if I had felt a need to ult early on, I didn't have a crit damage triangle on my C either. So I did it comfortably, but I don't think I didn't rise to the same challenges that Fatal did of having Ezra in it.
Fair. I appreciate that. My final question on that is, oh crap, I forgot it. Well, I tuned into your thing, Sasha, and forgot where I was. Crap. Oh well, if it comes back to me, I'll make mention of it. However, you did just say that you were seeing all of the Exile Ezras with Rey this week, and that kind of brings us to our next item. Regarding Exile Ezra and Fulcrum, plus her Kron, where is their greatest value found based on our summary experience of this team? Because we will have set 19 again when we come back to 3 vs 3, so it's absolutely worth considering. Exile Ezra was, So I think Fatal is going to continue to say it. Just EP Mara Jade Starkiller having, having Starkiller modded to go first continues to put the smackdown on it. Most everybody where I'm at, myself included, Sir Malikos Starkiller for 53 is the accepted, agreed upon exchange price for both of us. Pretty good to actually pull a 53. There were plenty of 2060 scores. Maybe a couple for me, a lot for my opponents. So I don't know. What do you guys think first about Exile Ezra? Best value?
Like, well, I'll pick that up because I just had a second ago and hand over to you guys. But like I said, my matches, that's where I had her set was continually with Ray and the opponent as well. And it's interesting. I talked to Aesop about it because we had that chance, thanks to you, Tess, to stream our previous matchup, and both of us, without having talked before we set our Ds, then we chatted after we set the Ds, and we're all getting ready to go. We both said, like, we had watched obviously our own attacks against the others, Ray, Ezra, and then had gotten a chance to see our opponent. Like, he got a chance to see me, I got a chance to see him against our own defense, and we're like, I don't like any of these options. Like, he did not think that his felt particularly good. What he'd used before, and I can't remember what he had used, but I. I did not feel particularly great about using Seer Malikos Starkiller against his either. And he and I both independently just came to the conclusion we were going to use Leia. And for me, it ended up working. I was able to just get an initial one shot of his Ezra using Drogon's basic. I did go with like a high resistance pen, high offense cron. I know Drogon doesn't have huge base resistance pen, but whatever he's got, I was interested in taking. And I was able to get that one shot. He mentioned he got through mine in one attempt, but he said it was terrifying at the first moment because when he played it correctly and did the log pull to stealth Ezra, get a huge ramped up basic with whatever 300% offense on it, and it just took my Ezra into damage immunity. It did not kill him. And so he was, that, I mean, it's a nerve wracking moment. He was able to play it out and ultimately was able to get I think Ben, then Ray, and then Ezra out. But we both had turned to that same thing. And I will say, like, I think with R9 Ezras, which both he and I have, that are like pretty well set out for bulk, it is nice to get some sort of really offensively oriented Datacron for your Drogon to try and get that one shot. But that's, again, I think most of this is threes, and we can talk about this as well, because I'm not so sure that Ezra is, like, I don't think he's anywhere near as wedded to Ray's comps in fives, but in
I can tell
threes,
you where I
yeah.
wanted to place it, and we talked about it, Tess. And I was trying to find a way where I wanted to get it if it's possible.
Yeah.
I wanted to get it on the JML team. So Dagger has been a long proponent of JML, right? And I'll talk about my defense that was the best. Which, surprise, notice, actually JML was my luck for the factor. The Old Republic Cron right now with a Jolie on the team doing the same thing would be just with getting the cooldown reduction. Basically, you would never lose Ezra. He would just keep coming back because he would just keep bringing him back. And the thought of what I wanted to try to put it together, because if you looked, there was no real data out there. There's protection in the Cron already for JML. You're going to put him with Jolie, and there's Old Republic setup that would help burst that and keep it going. Because honestly, Ezra can go so many places and does so many things. He actually is really good under JML lead. He has a lot of potential to do a lot of different things.
He
But
can't be coined though, so long as he has exile. Am I right about that or wrong? Like maybe he can be targeted, but he won't. Like the cooldown will be consumed, but he won't. Will he be called to assist, and he won't gain turn meter?
It'll
right?
still hold until he does, but he goes pretty quick, so he gets rid of it pretty fast.
Okay.
And that was my idea, and especially in threes with a limited character, you still have to be able to get to him. And Ezra Unleashed is still a monster. and now giving him the coin to do the things, and then he comes back and you're playing with the fight. Ezra alone is his own GL. We look at the kids for where, so it's putting him with JML just changes the fight mechanic and being, but all the same things kill it. So you'd have to have figured out a way to, like, C is going to still destroy it, right? Inquisitors were still showing 100%, but if you pulled those other counters, leaving that JML there with that Ezra, man, that's some gross times, especially with
that
what we
might
have
be,
for the Datacron.
that might be the counterpoint, though. Then is like if you're saying that if you concentrate JML and Ezra, and it's still going to fall prey to the same things that would normally counter JML, where and when do you think that's going to be advantageous to set them together?
It was only like doing it like this round 3. If you could guarantee
And
you
just
could pull.
to be clear, I have not been an advocate for JML on defense.
Oh, buddy, I'll tell you where it got me. And it's from what we talked about, Dagger. If you go back to the old school, you were the one who would call it out. And it was like, I would put JML on defense because it had no real place to go. And I'll tell you the one thing that held me up and got me the win, one was JML. Round 1, my guy spent, what did I write down?
Also, just for context, remember this is back when people were trying to dash it, and we had
Right.
bulk crons, and I was like, "You're not dashing my JML Jolie Shakti with bulk crons, but go ahead and try."
And guess that was my point.
But
Is
now
that
we
it
just have
still
so
worked.
many cheaper things to beat JML with that I would not advocate it for it on defense. But
Okay.
I'm not trying to poo-poo it. I'm just saying, like, just to put what when you referenced my take, almost literally years ago.
I almost
But
knew you were
that
going to
was the
say
thing.
something, so that's fair.
And it's not bad that it was years ago, but it's still like the number one thing that held for me the best is I was able to pull it correctly was JML. It literally held down my round 1 opponent. He spent 15 attacks on a JML because what I did is I pulled correctly, and it was just Jolie Shock. The Datacron plays into it. There was work there,
Sure.
but could not clear my team. Round
Okay.
3 went in, so it's like, but I just calling it out. You're asking about the Ezra specifically. It'd be fun to change the fight up because we talked last week. It was cool. Sasha brought up the Hera, and my number 1 team for last week when it came to it was Hera Ezra. It was with the Sabine Cron. It did the work. I don't believe it's because it's Sabine. It wasn't. I mean, they're great, but Ezra on that team, you had to have it, right, Sasha? Is that not fair that you couldn't set it without that? And if you did, it was
It
just
was
poo-poo?
really garbage without it, in my experience. I was
Yeah.
pulling
And you put
great
Ezra on
things
the
for
team,
terrible
and
banners.
now it's a
with it.
monster, and that's what I'm saying. And it was pulling 2 and 3 battles, and that's like the Ezra where it can go. It's like it has a lot of places. It would
Fair.
be fun watching the fight change of the dynamic, and JML was there, especially with us having a cron that had 60% protection on top of what you're doing, and a mechanic that was playing with Jolie as the third character. So it was just something I wanted to try, but I just couldn't get the gumption. So yeah, it may have ended there, but it's like, yeah, Ezra has a lot of places he can be.
Okay. I think we heard from everybody but Dagger and Fatal. How about you? Dagger, what you got? What do you think about the best application of Exile Ezra next time we come around to threes?
It'll honestly we'll talk about this in the in between, and we'll talk about this at the end here. But I think it really just depends on what the context of the board looks like, because we're gonna get new characters. We have like the.
Oh sure, yeah. I mean,
and,
assuming what we know now, based on your lived experience with it. I know you don't really have a lot of real experience, but I know you still keep your ears up. Like, what do you think about Exile Ezra come next season?
Just from reading Discord servers and seeing people talk and playing against it, I have not had any issues with it myself. And the people who who I talked to, like you guys, have had very little issues with it as well. I wonder how Starkiller will look without his Kron versus that with Rey. I think that would be my first thought, because if that boxes out Rey and Malicos, all of a sudden you have to give Rey an expensive answer.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is the time for that Leia counter to shine.
I don't know if it box. TJ, this is a what if, right? Because if Starkiller can't beat it without the Starkiller Kron, right? This is all I'm saying. Like, if Starkiller still beats it, then probably just with Ahsoka.
I'm going to ask this. I think Fatal killed it with the idea to put it in front. does that not still work of having just your MJ just go? Or the setup with the Star Killer and the MJ to
Yeah,
lock
what
it
I'm saying
down?
is, and what I'm saying is, if that works, I don't know if you put it with Ray. Again, this is all just a qualifier of
Oh, I
if
see what you're saying. Okay,
Ezra doesn't
okay.
block Star Killer, then don't put it on Ray. I'm just going through like the places I would put it. Right. I don't think the
Yeah.
Hera team is good enough per se, but I think that it's
Oh
like
no.
reasonable if you need something that's better than like Zori.
I
Um,
I,
I
I think
really
it
think
was fun.
I don't think he's good with JML that much in threes. Like I'm sure you could use him there, but I feel like his home is just gonna end up with like Ahsoka, and then like as 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 long as this Magma Trooper Cron exists, they'll probably put Fulcrum there.
Okay. All right. I can
But
see that.
I don't really know where he fits because we're losing Crons, we're gaining Crons. If the next, like for example, if the next set has an Ezra Cron, like then this
Absolutely,
entire
yeah, and
conversation.
you answered
That's
the
a good call.
question well in the spirit that I asked it. That's fine. That's
Yeah.
all good, man. Fatal, any thoughts from you? Any lessons learned on the Ezra experience?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to spin some wheels and put on some fires. I had an opponent try to put Ezra in JMK Cat, which was kind of intriguing. I guess my biggest takeaway with it is it still lost to Riva, which was a bit tragic, but I also don't know how Riva would do without set 18. So that like
Fair.
could maybe be a point of curiosity. I did hear like a random mention of like Ezra JML. But honestly, I might mess around with that next season. But honestly, all I really did with Ezra this season is I just slapped him in Ahsoka and left him there. That the hope being,
Fair.
if I can get opponents to use Sea Bane, that's two teams taken away from them. That will help fatigue them on the rest of the board. If they're gonna Magma Guard them, fucking who cares? My board's gonna beat them anyway, so you could have that one.
And
Was
were you
kind of my
just
ethos.
running Cal or RJT religiously with your Ray then? Like, what was the deal there?
Yeah, I was running Calcron, and this week I shifted Ray and Ben over to defense modding, and they were holding pretty well.
Nice. Okay. Okay.
I can't see the match history, so I can't be like, yeah, this is real, or no, that's fake. But also, so even if I was getting holds, I would strongly imagine that it was more so because of the Cleanse level 6 than because of the bulk plus Cal combo.
Fair. I absolutely bet that's the case. And that fight's going to get a lot slower next season without the Star Killer, Kron.
Dude, I am so glad that every single person that I fought thought that Crit of What is level 6 was good. Every match started off with me saying, boy, if they run Cleanse, then I'm dead. I just like lose this match. And then the match starts, then that sure is a Crit of What is level 6. Alright, free win, I guess. Thank you.
Fair. Fair. All right, guys, we're warmed up on the spirit of this question here about Exile Ezra. Now, about Fulcrum with her Kron. So, I rotated her. I had her with Ahsoka. I had her once with Leia at TJ's suggestion. I tried it. It didn't do anything super impressive. I want to say he used Inquisitors to beat it, if I'm correct. It didn't slow him down any. But let me think about this. Yeah, Ray, I think I did just once, but it wasn't. It also wasn't impressive. I had the best results with Ahsoka, just as a reliable C Bane draw. I actually didn't have anybody get too cheeky trying to do just C. So, how about you guys? What do you know? What you say? How would you best apply Fulcrum next season? I know we
in the
more or
spirit
less
of the
just heard from
question,
you, Dagger, but yeah, go ahead.
No, in the spirit of the question, I really liked it with Seer because I think it provides an interesting question.
Sure.
I think if you're gonna set Ahsoka though, you have to set Fulcrum there to like avoid the Magna Guard bullshit, but that's
Yeah.
neither here nor there.
Well, that General Syndulla was also supposedly, kind of a chancy, I dare you to try, because if I land the fracture, your goose is cooked kind of thing, but...
Yeah, but that doesn't stop. Like, there's plenty of people who trade the Jar Jar Kron. You know what I mean? Like, that 1/3 fail rate doesn't stop the brave.
Fair. What about the rest?
And I think I can speak for most of us that when it comes to deciding what I want to beat, so to speak, or what I want my opponent to use, I would prefer to tell my opponent what to use than allow them to use something cheap, get lucky, and still win.
Okay, fair. All right. Anything else?
In my case,
oh yeah, please.
In my case, actually, honestly, as I'm about to say this, I actually kind of regret doing it. In my case, I kept Fulcrum with Seer and never put Fulcrum in Ahsoka. I did switch to Ahsoka, Ezra, General Syndulla, but honestly, even as I say this, I think I actually kind of regret doing that. That I would have rather stayed with Sabine, just to. I don't know, man. Like, if they're gonna magnet me, they're gonna fucking magnet me. Like, that's just gonna happen. But for taking out the second damage threat, you just invite Sith Eternal non-Bane right in anyway. That, like, I don't know. I know Sith Eternal's better than Magma, but like on some level, it's almost like the same pricing in my head as like it's still just kind of an I-win team strolling through, even though it only works against Ahsoka with Magma's case.
Fair. TJ, Sasha, any thoughts? Yeah, please.
Yeah, for my part, I kept ATF with Ahsoka because I didn't have Ezra there, and and trying to set a defense that wasn't going to be as vulnerable to cheese. I really was mindful of the magma risk. Didn't do me much good because there were pretty affordable options for opponents to walk through it otherwise. But yeah, so with GL Ahsoka for my purposes this week at least.
All right, fair enough.
For me, it was just I swapped it up. And I know we talked about it, and because I hadn't done it all season, that was I think part of the piece of why I said it with Leia, and what I had seen. I wouldn't call it the best decision because obviously you're still going to kill it the same. You're going to still to kill it, but it was like, how can I stress who I'm playing to make alternative decisions possibly? And I think that's where it sparked and why we had that conversation. To ask again, obviously with Ahsoka, that's a great one. And then if you're not there, and I think we talked about it too, and I like Dagger, and but it was like adding Seer to that just feels gross. And plays it differently if you can afford to do that or something you want to call it setup. I know somebody tried. I mean, this week they tried CLS, so they did a CLS lead ATF, and that was bad. So
Yeah.
I guess if it's not like an Alea or it's not going, even the Ray. I saw your Ray one too, and that didn't feel at all like in addition, right? It's not like what Ezra adds or something else.
So right now
so
it
that-
sounds like
that-
our winners
yeah.
are with Ahsoka herself, or perhaps with Seer, if you're so inclined.
I could still see being okay with the Leia. To change it up,
Okay.
maybe or something like that. Maybe it's on the back wall, but I don't know where else it would go. But also to I think what Dagger said too, being able to use it on offense as a solo seems like a fun time.
Yeah, I keep.
And I think if you're trying to find the fun fights, I don't know if you can afford to do that, but man, that would just be fun.
That's the thing. A lot of reasonably high score fights, this season. So I don't know. I don't know how much risk you can really take that way.
I'll tell you one comp that I considered setting, but I didn't because I wanted to try and avoid the Magna Cheese. But I considered a Rolo ATF and Baze combo. Just some pre-taunting tank, and the whole concept is ATF is a bit of a nuisance herself, and Rolo's a character now that I brought her up, I guess back when she had a Datacron or whatever. But if she's left alone, Rolo can be a pain in the ass and can certainly snag banners. So that was a comp that I thought about setting, but didn't.
Now that you mention it, you just triggered my memory. I only set it one round, but I did put down Admiral Akbar, Princess Leia, both of them having their Omicrons, and Fulcrum. And this was a round where my opponent had sweat so hard getting through the bottom front wall and had a few drops that by the time they saw that, they kind of just threw in the towel. They did a couple more fights, but they didn't even attempt that team. Obviously, there's a number of things that people would use to counter that, so I'll never know. But I do want to wonder if maybe there's, if you're going for a slightly wider footprint, trying to make sure you have cleaner offensive counters, I wonder if there's a place for that, like as a hidden basketball team next season.
Yeah, if the other squad doesn't have Iden available to him, then that's
And with
possible.
the Imperial Trooper Kron set 19, which will still be with us, there will be a certain number of people who would have her on defense. So fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, appreciate you guys covering that. That pretty much wraps up the meta-analysis. Next item on the agenda, best attack and defense of the week. Okay, I have to go first by custom. Let me go ahead and see if I can't find where I had this. Dagger, why don't you regale us with a thrilling tale while I pull this up?
Nope, I'm good.
No thrilling tales from your week climbing into Kyber 3?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I will say this much. I had a experience where people have been stacking higher potency on their Bausch, and I have been stacking more tenacity. But I ran into a high offense, high potency that I think I showcased to you guys before, where it wasn't stacking debts on Marin and them exploding that killed her. It was the sheer force of the hits, just from her basic and then her getting called to assist, so on and so forth, just pounded through us. So I know that I learned with Mother Talzin, Marin Asajj, I bulked up my Marin here. We've got more defense, still about 270% tenacity, great figure, but I moved some things around and I'm trying to push up her armor as much as I can. Because, short of just having the largest life total I can, the next best thing I can do is increase my armor. So that was a lesson learned because that's one of my few losses with Mother Talzin this season. So that was a bad attack. As far as something defense-wise, I wish I could pull up GG and show you the detail to guess. I have notes from one of my opponents. Let me see here. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah. Nothing too crazy there. Checking all his notes that he sent me. I want to say that in the final round, Brawl Houston used a Dadbod Boba. We used some type of weird cobbled together team. I'll have to check with him and give you the details next time. But he used some type of cobbled together team to take out my Gungans that he had already dropped on like 4 times. It was getting late in the round. I needed to start doing my fleet fight, so I couldn't exactly show that. He went and did it anyway, thinking it was like a last desperate attempt. And lo and behold, it worked. So I'll have to follow up with him on that one. But really impressive that he cleared the board considering how much he had dropped up until that point. But that's about it for me. Dagger's good. TJ, how about you? Favorite attack and defense of the week?
So favorite defense is the JML. That literally was the one doing the best.
With or without Ezra, to be clear?
With or without what? I'm sorry.
With or without
with
Ezra,
No,
to
Ezra.
be clear?
No. This was just Jolie and
Shock.
Jolie and Lazaris.
Zaris,
With the Jolie Cron, it had good protection and it held. I want to say it's either 15, somewhere in the 15 to 20 attacks, and it was literally the lone man standing with Zaris. Just good old school rules. And then round 3, my opponent tried one time, and I'd already taxed him up front. Couldn't do it, so they just stopped. So JML, funny enough, with the Jolie Cron and the level 6 with the protection. So that was great. It did great for me. It held all the rounds. Even in round 2, it was doing good work. So I was proud of the JML holding it to something like that, going old school. And then favorite attack is the one I told you about, Tass. We were talking about it, where there was no Crex on Luthen. And I found Mon Mothma and I found Saw. Troopers with the Kron right now and the 25% turn meter. I'm literally just deleting teams in 30 seconds. I found it and decided to try it, and it's so much fun. Just old school, just beat the shit out of them. They die, they crawl over, they go away.
Nice.
30 seconds, 57. And then the other fun one I'll give is the bros, your man bros, and going old school with that on gas. Because we can build the tenacity into the cron, I would find a good one. And it was, if you setting on gas on defense, the bros are doing the work. And it was doing God's work, and I would just offset. So whatever potency you try to put on there, I had a bigger tenacity cron. And I know we talked about the 15%, but I had good runs with this. So it was fun getting to do that.
Fair. You know, you just reminded me here. Early in the season, you spoke on, hey, don't set trench because it can get wampa'd. And in this last round, I did have an opponent with Relic 7 Trench Am Watt on the team. So I thought I'd be ambitious with my Relic 9 Wampa. And we just barely survived the opening onslaught, like red health and everything. Stabilized, ended up closing out the fight. And, Brawl Houston had cleared my bottom front wall before the stream had started. He joined me on Discord. So he saw me do that fight and thought he would do the same with, I think, his Relic 7 Wampa against my all Relic 9 Trench Django Watt. And it did not pan out. So that was a dicey one. But yeah, you reminded me. It was a good time. Okay. Sasha Aisha, how about you, sir? Favorite attack and defense of the week?
Yeah, I nothing jumped out from well, actually, I'll share one on defense in just a sec, but it was one because of an Erodium matchup. I didn't get a chance to really see how it was going to be experienced by him. But on the attack front, a couple of things. One, like we've talked about in previous shows, like at least with the regular group of opponents I've been facing, Gungans has been pretty thoroughly and cost efficiently solved. So I wanted to find options for them on offense. And in that spirit of trying them out or just testing stuff out, this is the video I shared with you there, Tass. I brought Gungans against Seer, Malicos, and Crew, and it took over 4+ minutes, and but it got there for 57 ultimately, and the whole key was just being able to get access to and then sufficient damage pressure on Malicos. So that Gungan's attack was nice. I can't say I came out of it feeling like, yeah, that works 10 times out of 10 hard counter, but it didn't feel too bad. Had a
And
nice
we got it on
combination of
screen here
protect.
watching you go.
Yeah, so I mean, it ultimately it worked. Time consuming, and it almost fell apart. That's without phalanx, by the way. That is Tarpals is and I'm trying to remember. Yeah, no, that's Jar Jar and Tarpals.
Yeah, and how
As,
indispensable do you feel he is to this?
um, I do. I mean, I felt like damage was what I needed, kind of above all else. So I that's why I ultimately went with Tarpals. That combined with the fact that Malicos can ignore taunt, I just felt like, look, they're either going to be foolish and go for something other than a generator, or I'm going to have that thing melt and I'll die anyway. So I wanted the DPS there, and that ultimately worked pretty well. When I look at, let's see, the other one that I was going to mention, give me just a second. Let me look back at my notes here. But I had, oh yeah, it was, really, this is just a matter of like responding to, the learnings from week to week. In that, Aesop was certainly very comfortable taking out my Queen Amidala with his Treya, and I felt like that's not the most profitable trade for me. So I brought Queen Amidala to offense, and Queen Amidala was actually what I ended up using against Aesop and his Ahsoka GL, and that was remarkably smooth. It was he had Ahsoka, Hera, and Fulcrum. And with a nice Fulcrum cron, and it was a very smooth 57 in
Oh, nice
I don't know what it
find.
was. Yeah, it was like certainly less than 2 minutes. It was pretty darn quick without like any serious DPS pressure because
Wow.
Fulcrum can't ignore taunt. So you have Syndulla is fracturing the decoy. Fulcrum's trying to beat up the decoy, and meanwhile you're ramping your offense. So that worked well. On defense, the thing that I was interested in trying, this was again just from chatting with Aesop, and he had set the previous week SLK, Cal, and Ninth Sister against me, and I brought JML against it, and
Right. Yeah.
successful, right? But then we were kind of iterating on what would be good to set with to change that up. And the thought was maybe it's Barris, but the other possibility was going to be, and I think he said it in third round, but I don't have the history to see how it went. Not against me, he said it against I can't remember who else he was playing. But the defense that I thought was so interesting is SL. Third Dengar with a Dengar clone
Ooh. So
because I think one of the
you
oh
said
yeah
something team
yeah
blank out
so
cut out
SLK
Dengar. Start that from the
SLK
top.
Cal, yeah, SLK Cal, and Dengar,
Okay.
and Cal just does so much for Ufu survivability, and Dengar, like that squad, that little SLK squad, it Xeris is nice to have there from a survivability, but it really delays SLK's ult, right? Because you have no other dark side contributing to stuff. You have nice survivability with him, but it takes him a while to build up his ult. Whereas Dengar is doing a wonderful job for you, because he's going all the darn
Yeah.
time. He also 60% of the time on his basic, he calls an assist that you've got a 50-50 shot that's SLK. So that was the other possibility. I just get to see it in action, so I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We're all starving for details. It's unfortunate. All right. Fatal. How about you? Favorite attack and defense of the week?
I'm also kind of in the boat where I don't have any like clear standouts offensively that I can think of. It was just just continuing all the projects that I've been doing over the course of the season. Had a C working, had Nisus is working. It was all pretty bog standard. And then yeah, I guess defensively it was holding a cheeser down to a 2-zone clear, and I ended
Oh
up
yeah.
match
That's
1 and
the
match
ace.
2. I snuck SLK on my back wall just for the fuck of it, and then match 3, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna slap JML back here as well. Yeah, JML got one shot, but then they couldn't clear top front, so that could have just as easily been JML not dying and him clearing top wall either. In fact, that's probably what he should have done just for the sake of reaching ships.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, just a very, very good season for going wide. A lot of teams were able to generate holds because that's just kind of the nature of the beast, right? Is
Yeah.
every team in a vacuum can be dangerous, so it's just a question of which teams do they choose to kill first, because then those last, 3 or 5 teams are the ones that are going to get you. And
Fair.
so, yeah, I had like Seer Fulcrum get 6 holds in one match. I had LV Malikos get like 4 holds in one match. Yeah, it's just
Okay. Yeah.
LV Malikos. It's funny because the whole entire principle of LV Malikos was, Bo-Katan is what she is, but has some fundamental issues if she fights against LV with a revive block. But I've been running that for like seasons and seasons, and it was just never actually stopping Bo-Katan. And I feel like I just had a huge regression this season that I finally caught up on the percentage I was expected to have because my LV Malikos just kept getting holds. That it felt like my Maul was
Nice.
just sniping BKM every match of the season. So that's pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah. Dangerous stuff. Because with Malikos there, then he's also getting the permakill, right? So her revive won't save her there if she gets popped.
Yeah, if Maul blasts BKM, she is gone for good. Playing for
Yeah,
keeps.
man, that can be bad. Yeah, so many players rely on BKM to be their Lord Vader threat. That was rock solid for me. Lord Vader, Maul, Royal against Great Mothers. That very last round, I got stalled a good long time. Like I could not get Morgan to drop the taunt. And even though it took a lot longer to get done, I'm talking like we didn't do real damage until into Lord Vader's third ultimate. It still got done for 57. So I thought about setting Lord Vader on defense a little bit this season, but as an offensive tool, he was just too valuable to me. Couldn't give it up. All right, that wraps up best attack and defense. It's time for takeaways and final thoughts, guys. End of the line, end of 3 versus 3. When we come back, there will be no set 18 with us, so lots of mystery ahead as we anticipate what set 20 will look like. We've already given some thought to some of the rock stars from set 19 and how we might apply them when we come back. But I don't know. For my part, it felt like with 4 GLs on defense, I was in a comfortable spot where between that and the other, what I would call a quote-unquote challenge team, with all the other challenge teams I'd put on defense, yeah, going wide, like Fatal was saying, was a profitable venture this season. I definitely felt like I was relatively safe on attack, especially once I got my, feet under me after putzing around in week 2, because I had a couple of Rhodiums week 1, so I was starving for experience, and I learned good lessons through the couple losses I had. But yeah, this wider footprint was cool. Still having a decent number of GLs. I felt like maybe going heavier on GLs was not worth the risk. And for my opponents that dared to try, they were punished. So that seemed like a good lesson. And I think when we come back, I'll be maintaining much that same board shape. Dagger, how about you? Your thoughts closing out our season? What do you got for the people?
It's a good time to be done with 3v3 for a while.
Yeah?
Yeah, we just got a lot going on in game right now. 5v5 is both a combination of both higher stress and lower stress. It's less teams, but those teams matter a little more, and there's more counters to GLs, so you end up just saving more GLs. 5v5 is like the casual GAC, right? Where you just have like this gentleman's agreement to like, I'm going to save 5 or 6, you're going to save 5 or 6, and let's see who wins.
Okay.
I find that far less stressful than 3v3.
Yeah, I guess. The flip of that is like what you're describing there becomes a pretty stale meta. We've definitely seen that in the past. So I'm small tear rolling down my cheek that I will wipe away, remembering fondly 3 versus 3 until next we meet.
To be clear, this is comparative.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't saying that like 5v5 is boring. It's just mostly saying that 5v5 is less dynamic than 3v3.
Yeah, true.
And with it being less dynamic, it has less moving pieces, which makes it easier to plan for and execute.
All very fair.
Also, right. The game is designed for 5v5, so you get to use some of the characters you didn't get to use in 3s.
It is true, and you really notice it with certain teams, particularly Gungans. That is like a completely different level of threat when you have the 2 extra attackers in there. But yes, TJ, coming to you next. Your final thoughts. What are your lessons learned? Words for the people.
Hopefully, it's also relevant when we see the next 3s with the new Datacron. We'll have Dark Ray. We'll have a whole bunch of other things to talk about. So, I still agree with Fatal. This feels more like the real GAC because you get to take more risks and do more things. Hoping we still get to play a wide game and set some defense that's going to be fun. I think that's the biggest thing. Obviously, we'll have new toys and it'll be a brand new game. We'll have all new things to work about, but I think that's where I sit at for now.
Fair, very fair. Sasha, Aisha, how about you, sir? When we come back next, what are you looking forward to? What are your words for the people?
Yeah,
So a couple things. One, just actually as we go into fives, this is triggering my mind for something that I feel acutely in fives, but feel a bit in threes too, and that is like how desperately I would love for them to just shake up the game mode, because we're about to go into one where it's a standard board where you only get to hide 3 squads, and that just bums me out because that whole I very, very much believe in the strategy of going wide with your defense and trying to get creative with either drawing counters, setting surprises, things like that. It's not always doing it, but occasionally, and I think it spices up the game, and that's just harder to do in fives. I'll be curious to see if we have this new Bad Batch squad coming. By the time more in threes, I don't know, a month from now, probably not, but maybe enough pieces that it can field 3/5 of it. And I'll be curious to see if a squad like that is not being used in a raid, not doesn't seem to be the path to a galactic legend, like how that's going to slot into the meta. Like, are they making it? Is it like sufficient, like power creep that it's going to be an A quality team ultimately? Will it be an A minus or B? Will it be an A quality when used on offense because of the complexity of the kits and their potential, but a dud on defense? Curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's an interesting thought. Like, Bad Batch, the original team, was much more interesting and capable as an offensive team than as a defensive team. And and her kit, we've already seen people, pull off interesting. I don't want to say exploits because I don't mean it in like a game exploit, but like in an accomplishment sense. Activating Nihilus, for turn 1 easy, annihilate to cheese something. So if you're seeing those type of nuanced offensive applications, if there is a viable new Bad Batch 3 versus 3 team when we come back next, I would be surprised. Well, maybe not surprised for week 1, right? I guess for week 1, I take your point. Somebody might throw it down to see, what are you going to do? Because maybe the Wrecker is actually a sufficient tank. We have no idea. So, all right. Good stuff, man. Okay, Fatal, how about you, sir? Last but not least, what you got to say? Lessons learned. What are you looking forward to next time we show up here in 3 versus 3?
Yeah, I think it's overall like a pretty good shape for the season. If there's one regret that I had is that I never pushed Riva on defense because I think she also just had like really, really. It was kind of like Saw Luthen Krex, where it's like you would think that there is some sort of natural response, but then you check the data and it's like the matchup tables just look like really, really favorable if they have pressure behind them. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to next 3v3. We're in a weird era for the game, I think, where new characters are very 5v5 oriented at the moment, where like I don't know how much Dark Basel is going to matter, and I actually don't know how much the new Bad Batch is going to matter in 3v3, because just like the Gungans and kind of, well, no, I will say this, I think it's true for Balin too, and kind of is true for Ahsoka as well. CG has kind of put all hands on deck to make teams like make full usage of all 5 slots, and the nature of 3v3 is that you have to sacrifice stuff and they have to sacrifice stuff too. But I think newer content has kind of affected disproportionately because we're kind of in this new era of CG where they have to spread out wide and stick clauses and all sorts of characters that like you cut Huyang, you lose your ult. You cut General Syndulla, you lose your TM train and counter TM train, and this and that. That as much as I am excited for the new content, I actually wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't the most impactful in 3v3, unless it gets lifted with a Datacron, and then we're probably having a very, very different conversation.
Very fair. Yeah, we'll find out more about that next time. Okay, Fatal, as the only other content creator here on our show, where can the good people find you?
twitch.tv/playbook.tv. Everything in my office is currently disintegrating, and I have a desperate cat trying to sleep on me, but I will be live shortly after this talking about Batcher, probably.
What happened? Did you get some type of new flood damage or something?
Nope, it's just my headset's actually falling apart.
Oh, jeez.
As we're recording this, it actually just started falling apart.
All right, man.
Yeah, we got the little Lightside TB cat in game. Spoiler for that.
Yeah. While we're recording here, the announcement for Batcher just came out. So we'll be doing a kit review on that. You will know this, you watching this at this point, because just prior to this recording, we did, as a team, record our first character kit review. So we'll be covering this one as well in the very near future. Stay tuned for that. All right. As always, guys, thank you so much for being here. My co-hosts. And, if you're used to watching me, then you know that you can find me streaming live on twitch.tv/Tassinix. Of course, Plotting and Scheming is on Spotify, but it also gets rebroadcasted over to my YouTube channel, Tassinix Gaming, where you can find uploads of my JC stream VODs with chapters added for easy browsing. In addition to content like, JC Omicron tier list, mod guide videos, and, I feel like I'm forgetting something here. It's going to come to me. I always say it. But anyway, there's a bunch of good content over there on my YouTube channel. Check that out for anybody who's a big fan of Grand Arena. There's something there. All right. Last but not least, if you've enjoyed the show, if you like the cut of my jib and you want to support what I'm doing here, of course, I do have Cash App. That is $Tassinix. Some of you asked about my PayPal. I did dust it off. It is tassinix@gmail.com. And of course, if you want to get something back, get some improved scouting tools, get early access to the Plotting and Scheming podcast, and some other benefits as well, you may consider joining my Patreon, patreon.com/Tassinix. For any upperly mobile Grand Arena player, there is something there of interest to you. At $5 a month, you enter the Tass House. At VIP access level, you get that early access to Plotting and Scheming, my Datacron set videos, as well as a dedicated text and voice chat on Discord, where you can usually find me lurking, so pop on in and say hi. Thank you so much to Andrew, Arj, Deadpool28, JJ's Productions Twitch, Jobin4527, Johnny B. Ottawa, Miasmal, Mus Ross, Raised Malbus, Sam Vimes, Squed, Stark Strategy Gamer, Sweens14, White Wolf, and Zoltre. Moving on up to the $10 a month tier is VIP Access Plus, where you get a bundled Patreon access to me and to OmegaBot. So if you watch my streams at the start of each one, I will have an OmegaBot report pulled. It shows an amazing, easy to understand visual representation of what your opponent's offensive and defensive tendencies are about. Anybody can pull their opponent's most recent week of history, but patrons can pull any number of weeks. And in addition, you get a downloadable HTML version of the report with links integrating for specific fights right back into Swugga.gg or Insight, whichever you use. Get the details on the fights you're curious about. Again, just helps me save a lot of time. So thank you so much to Stryker, Eshsotnikam, and Dobby. And of course, at VIP Access Premium, $15 a month for the Double Bot bundle. This is Patreon access to me, to OmegaBot, and to Hot Utils, the #1 tool for your mass mod management and loadout creation. No other tool lets you, just switch between TB, TW, Grand Arena, Raid. With just a couple of clicks, it's all done. You can be like TJ and Fatal and use it to remod your whole roster for Grand Arena on a weekly basis. You can slice through that overdue backlog of mods that you've been sitting on top of in just seconds. Whole bunch of other cool stuff going on in there. Thank you so much to Duckstab, Dark Hug, Ibenek, General Milan, Sir Boss, Quig, Wilco, and Frick Frack Paddywhack. At the top of the list here, in Jester's Club Elite, my #1 supporter, Nomad's Reaper. This guy pops into stream from time to time, drops hundreds of subs, thousands of biddies, all in one go, always goes crazy with it. Thank you so much for the very generous support over the years, man. And of course, to our special thanks First up, to Yoda Force, one of my original supporters from way back in the day. He gifted me the mic that I'm speaking to you on right now, and even though he's long since quit the game, we remember him well. We remember him fondly from the other side. To Mrs. T, my wife, thank you for all you do in the background, keeping our enterprising, destructive, creative daughter from ripping apart our home, brick by brick, while her father's, tied up a few hours at a time, trying to be halfway decent at a phone game. And of course, to my co-hosts here on Plotting and Scheming, Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal. Gentlemen, as always, it is a pleasure and a privilege to record our show together. I learn from you guys every week. Our viewers definitely learn from us. The comments, the interactions on Discord, people showing up in our various streams talking about it, really appreciate it. We're doing something good, something helpful, and you guys are a huge part of this winning recipe. I wouldn't change a thing. All right, moving back over to the main scene. That wraps us up. Yeah, it's been a great 3v3 season. Rough at first because I was starving for experience, but we closed out strong. I started that last match at rank 19 and then won. So I'm hoping to have somewhere around inside or around top 20 start for the beginning of the next season. We'll see where we land. Until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.